Welcome, friends. You are listening to the Mind Body Alchemy podcast. I'm your host, Stephanie Miramontes. This is where intuition meets education in the realms of spirituality, fitness, mindset, and more, all to create lasting change. Welcome back to the podcast, and thanks so much for being here. I just want to say, for those of you who have left reviews on my podcast, I read every single one. And when I am trying to think about what I want to record for you, or if I'm ever having a day where I'm not really in the mood or I need a little push, because yes, I am a whole ass human too, those reviews really do help me shift my mindset and immediately help me get my head in the game and hit that record button. Last week, we talked about the habits that make up the framework of hunger-directed eating. And I promised you that I would talk about something that a lot of folks are questioning and worried about when they begin this journey. I want to talk to you about a concept that I was thinking about when it comes to the people that struggle. When someone comes from a background of food scarcity or restriction, and more specifically, food scarcity and restriction from dieting, then learning hunger-directed eating can feel very liberating in many ways, especially in the way that I teach it and the way that our unstuffed community learns it, where no foods are off limits and we don't have to add up any macros or calories in order to make the foods fit. Once the initial stage of fear has been overcome, when people add these foods back in, people tend to struggle with the pendulum seemingly swinging to the other side. Now that they have allowed themselves these foods, and decided that they aren't going to feel guilty anymore around them, they begin to eat them in a way that they were describing to me as out of control. And what I want to say about this is it's very normal when you have restricted certain foods, especially foods that are very pleasurable to you or have some emotional connection to your memories or history or something like that, or they're very pleasurable to your brain, to start by overeating them. But what clients often think happens is that the food is controlling them now. That's because the food is so delicious, they can't stop eating it once they've started, or they take extreme amounts of willpower in order to do so. Because they're now indulging in these foods, telling themselves to stop before they're emotionally ready, even though their body has communicated they are full or past full, it starts to remind them of how restriction and deprivation and dieting felt. It feels the same. And because they know they're never going back there, they start to feel entitled to this indulgence. Again, this is normal. But I just want to offer that there's a difference between being intentional about adding in foods because you want them and enjoy them, and adding them in while telling yourself that if you don't overeat them, then you're somehow restricting. Oftentimes, something that contributes to this phenomenon is a subconscious belief that this won't work. They actually have to restrict these foods. And so they better eat all they can stand now while they're trying this out, because eventually they're going to have to give them all up. Because they have a belief based on the diet industry narrative that these foods are bad, immoral, fattening, unhealthy. And so this hunger-directed way of eating in the beginning is just a placeholder until they can re-energize themselves to go back to restricting in the hopes that this time it'll stick. Of course, that's just one possible contributor. It's not the whole story, though. And when I was thinking about this sense of entitlement to indulgence, I was thinking about how it feels to be in that state. Yes, I do remember. And I actually know what this feels like because I've been through this journey myself, and it feels very true. And while I think that indulgence is often a good thing, and the pleasure is such an important piece, we have to tell ourselves the whole truth. We can handle it. This is probably the point in the episode that you start freaking out or getting kind of smug thinking, see, I told you, she was going to tell us we have to cut it back or get rid of it altogether. But that, my friend, is the entitled indulgence speaking. I am not asking you to cut it back. Instead, when I say tell yourself the whole truth, I'm asking you to ask yourself when indulgence no longer feels like you are indulging, and when it starts to feel like you are punishing your body, reaping consequences in your energy and the way that you feel, and if what you are doing feels the exact same way that dieting has felt to you, by creating a mindset where you are in an imbalanced relationship with cookies and potato chips. The idea of hunger-directed eating is to be respectful to your body, understand your body's communication signals, and to be in right relationship with food. That means all foods. There's a fairy tale to the idea that you can eat everything you want and that everything will be just fine. But the fairy tale is not that it isn't true. You actually can eat whatever you want in the amount you want and everything will be fine, barring some kind of food allergy, of course. But you have to be honest about why you want the foods you want, when you want them, in the amounts you are telling yourself you want them. Because if you were doing this from a hunger-directed eating place, then you would not want to eat them in a way that made you feel miserable. If you wanted to do it in a hunger-directed eating way, then you would be eating them in a way that gives you peak pleasure, is intentional, present, and not another bite more. Because you would know that all those extras coming from that extra want are rooted in emotion. That emotion being entitlement, and it has nothing to do with your body. At this point, it's entitled indulgence, not actual indulgence. And your body pays the price for it. The same way your body pays the price when you cut those foods out and then you stress and worry about food. And then you end up binging and overeating on them on the other side of that. Can you see how this worry and stress around food feels the same? So when you notice that you're in an entitled indulgence mindset, you can start to tell yourself what it actually is so that you can separate your story from the actual facts. The facts are, your body is wise. The facts are, when you're overeating, your body is going to store that extra energy as body fat, and it's going to have to work harder than it prefers. Your body is going to take that as a signal that you need it, and so it's important to hold on to it. The internal environment your body holds, aka the hormones associated with hunger and fullness and your digestion and the way your body uses energy and communicates those energy needs to these systems and your health, they're all impacted. This doesn't happen with just that one overeat or 2 overeats or 10 overeats. Your body's not a robot. It's not that simple. Of course, everyone overeats sometimes. No, the consequences happen when it's a habit. When you habitually overeat, you're communicating to your body that you would like it to store the extra energy because you need it. The emotional story is, you can't take this away from me. The emotional story is, it's too hard to stop. I'm afraid of how I'll feel if I stop, or if I'm not eating, or if I stop eating, then I still may want more food and desire can be uncomfortable to sit with. All of those are emotional stories. And those emotional stories feel like a threat in your body. If somebody takes the food away, you're in danger. You're in emotional harm's way. If you're meeting your needs for energy, nutrients, and pleasure with food, and you still desire more after your body has communicated it's comfortably full, and you find yourself in a sulky energy or you're mad or you're feeling this entitled indulgence, that's not a moral failing or something you need to judge yourself for. It's just good to know. Because when you know what's going on, then you can do the work around fixing it. But you don't even have to fix this. It will go away on its own. Good news, right? If, when you notice that you're in that energy, you're compassionate with yourself. That's the trick. You remind yourself that it's normal to feel this way. You remind yourself that the feelings will pass. And you remind yourself that all the reasons why you're going to lovingly decline to continue to eat matter, while accepting that it might be uncomfortable, but just for a little while. You tell yourself it's a normal part of the process of hunger-directed eating and experimenting to know how much you need and learning from that information to separate your physical needs from your emotional ones. Of course, they're never completely separate, are they? But overeating is always rooted in some emotional need. And soothing the emotions that drive the decisions to overeat and cause problems long term. This will all go away on its own when you can allow yourself to feel entitled, but not operate from that feeling. Because entitled is a normal human emotion. And like my unfiltered and unstuffed members know, emotions require surrender. Surrender to it instead of indulging in it or resisting it. Remind yourself that you don't have that emotion for no reason at all. and then love yourself through to the other side, even if you feel pissy pants about it. Because sometimes we have to do things that we are pissy about. This is something I coach my clients on often in Unstuffed and Masterful when they are feeling stuck. And I'll do another podcast on pissy pants emotions in the future if y'all want it. If you want it, let me know. But for now, even if you feel like this is confronting to think about, it's probably not going to be near as hard as you're imagining it is. Build confidence by taking the first step. As always, there's no such thing as perfect here. You may or may not be ready for this information, so do the best you can to think about how this can help you and trust that it will be there for you when you need it. It's not conceptually hard to just not eat when you're full. It would be emotionally challenging. So much of the work I do every single day is help people understand why they aren't doing the things that they know they want to be doing. They know they want to stop overeating. They know they no longer are physically hungry for the food, but there is something that holds them back or keeps sending them to the refrigerator, back to the cupboards, time and time again. Often they can hear their body speak, "I've had enough," but I can't seem to experience feeling satisfied or complete. Entitled indulgence is just one of the many ways that our minds are in conflict with our physical needs. So it's time to begin to reconcile the two so you can start seeing the progress you've been working so hard for. I know this is not an easy thing for you to do on your own. If you can, that is amazing. But if you can't, or you just don't want to, then be sure to get on the wait list for the next Unstuffed group coaching program. Won't be opening for a while, I'll just tell you. But you can get a head start by taking the Diet Personality Type quiz. The link is in the show notes. This is such an easy, actionable step that you can take. Once you take the quiz, you'll get your results. We'll send you materials that'll help you use what you're learning from those results of your quiz and from the content you learn on the podcast here each week to help you make some changes while you wait. Whether you want to join us in Unstuffed or not, that is all good. We just want to make sure that you have a great place to start right away. So take a few minutes and give yourself the gift of getting the right information. I know it's difficult to get out of negative feelings, uncomfortable emotions, and that is because the way that we think creates our feelings, and our thoughts can be habits too. So we're not just choosing to think differently, we are breaking habits and making new ones. Give yourself time, patience, longer than you think it'll take, much longer than you think it'll take to really nail this, to change the way that you're thinking about it. If it happens faster for you, that is awesome, bonus. But don't set yourself up for unrealistic expectations where you wake up one day and everything falls into place like it was never a big deal. You probably have years or even decades learning your dieting restriction ways. It would be absolutely normal for you to feel a little worried, a little stressed, a little anxious, a little impatient for this to just be over with. Compassion is your superpower. Use it often. You cannot overdo compassion. Normalize that you would be experiencing this. Normalize that it will be uncomfortable. Normalize that it's going to take longer than you wish it would. And love yourself through that. We're here to help. All right. That is it for today. Entitled Indulgence. I would love to hear your thoughts. If you love this episode, if you found it helpful, please do the cool thing. Leave me a rating and review. It helps me so much more than you know. It also selfishly just lights me up and gets me all excited to continue to hit that record button. So share this episode on social media. Share it with your friends. Tag me. All my information is in the show notes. If you want to take the quiz, if you want to work together one-on-one, or you just have thoughts or questions about this episode, ideas for future episodes, or you want to say hello, shoot me an email. My inbox is always open for you, and I do love to hear from you. That is it for me today. Thanks. Bye.